أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيد الخلق وأعز المرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى جميع أنبياء الله والمرسلين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. My dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا ابن رسول الله، صلى الله عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. أشهد أن الله يا مولاي قد طيب بك التراب وأعظم بك المصاب وأجزل بك الثواب وأوضح بك الكتاب، وجعلك وأمك وأخاك وجدك وأباك والمعصومين من بنيك عبرة لأولي الألباب. يا ابن الميامين الأطياب التالين الكتاب، وجهت سلامي إليكم ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني للسلام عليكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين ورحمة الله وبركاته. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Book of Al-Quran said, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. Whoever is a pious, good believer, is it the same versus whoever is a mu'min, a believer? أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا. Whoever is a mu'min and a pious one, shall we equate him with a non-mu'min who is a sinner and a criminal and a tyrant, an oppressor? Al-Fasiq, by definition in the Islamic term, is the person who have no regard for the limits of God. He breaks all the limits of God without any shame and commits sinful act openly and does not have any regret. And some of those fasiqeen, they feel proud and they feel the pride in doing so. تأخذهم العزة بالإثم. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala set this concept in Al-Quran that the mu'min, the believer who is pious, who is doing the good deeds, salih, good person, is not equal to a evil person that perform the evil acts, that causes corruption, and that takes the life of the innocent people, that impose unjust rules on the people that he rules over. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Book of Al-Quran said the two are not equal. أَفَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. They are not equal with regards to the justice of Allah and in the concept of Allah. They're not equal. And we, as people who also have a certain judgment for things, we should not equate among the two. Okay, فَمَنْ كَانَ مُؤْمِنًا كَمَنْ كَانَ فَاسِقًا لَا يَسْتَوُونَ. Okay, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also in another ayah also, he says the same thing, and he asked us about this issue. He asked us about this issue. مَا لَكُمْ كَيْفَ تَحْكُمُونَ أَفَنَجْعَلِ الْمُتَّقِينَ كَالْفُجَّارِ. Another ayah. أَفَنَجْعَلِ الْمُتَّقِينَ كَالْفُجَّارِ. Shall we equate those pious people who are God-fearing people in the way they act, in the way they run things, in the way they govern, in the way they behave? Shall we make them equal? Al-Fujjar, Fajara Yafjuru means those who are committing sinful act, big sinful act. Fawahish, big sinful act. Ma lakum kayfa tahkumun. Tell me, do you equate them? No, of course we don't equate them. So in that regards, taking into consideration those two ayats, historically speaking, the ruler of Bani Umayyah at that time, Yazid, is not different, is not equal to Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Because Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is a mu'min and muttaqi. He's a man of taqwa and he's a man of iman, and he was a man of knowledge, and he was a man of divinely guided in the way he sees things, in the way he talks, in the way he acts, in the way he behaves, and in the way he runs things with respect to the Muslims, with respect to his family, and with respect to the people around him, even with respect to the non-Muslims. So, what should we know for sure for all the Muslims? Now, my talk is not specifically for the followers of the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt. This lecture today, this majlis today, will be focusing on the unity of the Muslims. And we're going to try to address the fact that Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is not only for the Shia, because he is Imamul Muslimin. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi declared him as an Imam, he did not declare him an Imam for a specific group of people or a specific sect in Islam. Yes, there are certain group of Muslims, they do not regard the value of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. That's unfortunate. That's a big mistake. That's a big loss. That's devaluating of a ni'mah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigned to this ummah. So, we need to educate ourselves that the cause of Al-Imam Hussein alayhi salam need to unite this ummah, unite the Muslims, unite all the mu'mineen. And I'm speaking nicely and kindly and peacefully and logically to all the Muslims, regardless of their school of thoughts. It doesn't matter what school of thought you follow, as long as you have an answer to Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah. If you have an answer to Allah Yawm al-Qiyamah, it is between you and Allah. However, since Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, وَادْعُوا إِلَى سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ, call for the way of Allah and for the road to Allah and for the straight path of Allah with wisdom and with a good, kind advice. I will try to do that, and so with this speech to all my brothers and sisters, the Muslimin and al-Muslimat, in order to introduce them and invite them, introduce them to Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and invite them to know about Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is within the ahkam of Al-Quran. Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is a noble, divinely guided man by the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. And he is Mubarak. He's blessed. He is mutahhar, purified, complete purification. My brothers, my beloved brothers, Muslims and sisters everywhere, regardless of your nationality, regardless of your language, regardless of your color, regardless of your background, let's focus on Al-Quran. Al-Quran is telling us this man is a pious man. This man is purified. This man is godly guided. This man is divinely inspired. This man was also praised by the Prophet that we all believe in his prophethood. And we all unanimously agree, whatever Ar-Rasul gave us, we should take. And whatever Ar-Rasul told us to reject, we should reject unanimously among all the Muslims, all the school of thoughts. Ahlul Bayt is to be loved, to be cherished, to be respected, to be followed, to be obeyed, to be loved. And there is no doubt that Al-Imam Hussein is one member of Ahlul Bayt. So al-ayah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. This is a command in Al-Quran to all the Muslims. Am I right or am I right? It's a command. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. And hold tight to the rope of Allah and do not go divided. Do not disperse yourself into groups. Do not separate. Unite in the rope, holding tight to the rope of Allah. Let's ask ourselves, where is the rope of Allah? What is the rope of Allah? Everything unanimously agreed on in this ummah is the rope of Allah. And the rope of Allah is the knowledge that Allah wants us to learn, and the sirat al-mustaqim that Allah wants us to walk on. And we ask the question, who will define to us a sirat al-mustaqim? Who defined for us the rope of Allah? So, taking into consideration this unity, ayah of unity, and taking into consideration for us Muslims to think that we should not equate between the bad and the good. We should not equate between a mu'min and a fasiq. We should not equate between a believer and a fajr. That is the concept of Allah. That's the Quranic concept of Allah. That is Quranic concept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching us. So, there is an occasion and there is a dhikra for istishhad al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. This event, why is it being ignored by a great portion of the Muslims in the world? Why we will turn these 10 days into 10 days of celebration about an event related to a narration that's not authentic. There is no unanimous agreement on it. And supposedly it was authentic. I don't believe it was authentic, because when you look at the sources, it's not authentic, and it didn't happen, and it's been invented. Supposedly, for the argument's sake, it was authentic. That the Muslims should celebrate the fact, the 1st of Muharam, for what the followers of Moses have done thousands of years ago. And the Muslims now, they have the opportunity to do it in Muharram. And there is all these ahadith in the 10th of Muharram that Allah did this, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the earth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Nuh and the ship of Nuh. All of these ahadith that associated with the 10th, the memory of the tragedy of what happened to the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. So great number of the Muslims in the world, they celebrate instead of what? Instead of feeling the sadness, and instead of acknowledging the loss, and instead of acknowledging the tragedy of such shahada. The Muslims, there are some Muslims, the followers of the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt, they feel sad, and they show the sadness, and they cry, and they weep, and they revive the majalis of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in order to spread Islam and to spread the Quranic values, and also to identify the value of Muhammad wa Ahli Bayt Muhammad to the rest of the world. While another group of Muslims, they celebrate, they feel the joy, they bring the cakes, they wear their best of their clothes. Something is wrong. What's wrong in commemorating the loss of the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi? Since this grandson is a very valuable person to all of us, and he is an imam to all the Muslims, and he is from Ahlul Bayt that should be loved by all the Muslims, And he is a man of taqwa and a man of piety, because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa said, whoever loves him, he loves me. And whoever loves me, he loves Allah. أحب الله من أحب حسينا. May Allah loves any person who loves Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So, طيب, if you love someone and you lose him, do you celebrate? Do you rejoice? Do you make festivals? Do you dance? Do you sing? If someone that is dear to you and you love him and you lost him, and you lost him in such a tragedy and such a tragic event where he was killed by a group of criminals, him and his family and his kids and his relatives and 38 from his close relatives mercilessly, even his own infant on his hand was slaughtered and killed and butchered with an arrow that pierced his neck, and you love that person and you love this group and you think that he is an imam, that he should lead you to salvation, you celebrate? You do not acknowledge the memory? Is there anything against Al-Quran? Is there anything against Islam? Is there anything against our Islamic value? طيب, let me ask you a question. In the Sahih al-Bukhari, in Sahih Muslim, in Mustadrak al-Sahihain, in As-Sawa'iq al-Muhriqa, in Tarikh al-Tuburi, in Muruj al-Dhahab, in you name it, indicating to us that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi cried and wept and felt the sorrow when Jibreel alayhi salam informed him about the killing event of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He wept, he cried. And Salama said the way he cried, his voice was loud. Yani he cried and he wept and the tears came out. And he showed sadness. And he showed the sympathy. And then if we do that, we are following the what? The Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. How can we claim that we love Ahlul Bayt? Ahlul Bayt should unite all the Muslims. The love for Ahlul Bayt should unite all of us. And if you love someone, you should know something about them. Even if there is no hadith that's telling you to follow them. Even if there is no ayah that tells you about their high position. If you love someone, you forget about them. You disregard their memory. You disregard their moment of death. You disregard their suffering, especially when they suffer. And the martyrdom that they have achieved is for you and me, and to protect our deen, and to protect our Islam, and to protect the value of Al-Quran, and to unite all the generation on loving peace and justice and standing up against the tyrants and the people who betrayed their religion and betrayed their countries and betrayed their values and betrayed their humanity. Why don't we unite on the love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam? I hear on the social media some ignorant so-called Muslims, ignorant, may Allah guide them. It hurts me as a Muslim, as a mu'min, when they want to devalue the position of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. There are some thoughts out there is saying, oh, he should be killed. Oh, he was killed by the sword of Rasulullah. This is a ridiculous, I don't know, there are no words to describe this nonsense. This nonsense. If you have no love for the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, especially when Rasulullah asked you to love him, commanded you to love his household, commanded us to love his Ahlul Bayt. If you have no love in your heart for Ahlul Bayt, shut up. Have some shame. have some haya, have some regard to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. To propagate, oh, he's just a man, normal man. No, he was not a normal man. He was not a man as far as normal man. He was an exceptional man. He was an exceptional mu'min. He was a mu'min of knowledge, a mu'min of iman, a mu'min of taqwa, mu'min of akhlaq, bravery, sacrifice, ultimate love for Allah and Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, and for Islam and for all the values of Islam. And he listened to what Al-Imam said. Look at his legacy. Make sure that Al-Imam Al-Hussein will be your mentor, somebody for you to follow. Al-Imam Al-Hussein should unite us. Al-Imam Al-Hussein should unite this ummah. Because Al-Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, over and over again, I tell you, he is not only for the Shia. He is an inspiration for every man who feels the distress unjustly. He's a great, great savior for the human values. He practiced what he preached. He sacrificed his life and sacrificed his family and sacrificed his kid to stand up for what Al-Quran is teaching us, to stand up for the truth, to stand up for Al-Iman, to stand up to defend Islam, because a man like Yazid is not equal to a man like Al-Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. There are some people, they just want to shine the image of Yazid. They want to introduce this evil character to Al-Ummah as a great leader. Come on, what are you trying to do? You cannot hide the sun. You cannot hide the facts. You cannot bury your head in the sand and tell us, oh, the camel is flying. Ya ammi, the camel does not fly. No, the camel is flying. That's an expression. We have a simple fact. If you are to study Islam, how do you compare? How do you even dare to compare Yazid to Al-Imam Hussein alayhi salam? How do you? It doesn't come to my mind. It doesn't add. Regardless of what your school of thought is, regardless. And look at the A'imma of all Madhahib al-Muslimin. Let's examine Ash-Shafi'i. Did Ash-Shafi'i prefer Yazid over Al-Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam? Of course no. Did he ask his followers to love Ahlul Bayt? Of course yes. We go to Abu Hanifa. Did he cherish the value and valued Al-Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam? Of course yes. Did he prefer Yazid over him? Of course no. We go to Malik. Did he do this? Never. We go to Ahmad bin Hanbal. Did he do this? Of course no. أنا الشافعي well known إذا كان رفضي بحب آل محمد فليشهد الثقلان أني رافض. If people are calling me Rafidi, a rejectionist, because I love the legacy of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, then let the whole universe and the world know that I am a rejectionist. That's a Shafi'i. Who are Ali Bayt Muhammad to you, to every Muslim, to us? Who are they? Let me tell you one thing to remind all the brothers and the sisters in Al-Ummah. Let me remind you something that a lot of us forget and tend to forget, intentionally or unintentionally. If you do not recite as-salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad in every salat that you do, your salat will not go anywhere, will not be accepted. Suffice honor for such a group. Ya ala bayti Rasulillahi hubbukumu fardun min Allahi fil Qur'ani anzalahu. كفاكم من عظيم الفضل أنكم من لم يصلي عليكم لا صلاة له. I will do the translation of this poetry. Ya ala bayti Rasulillah. Oh, the household of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. Your love, your respect, the loyalty to you. Fardun min Allah. It's an obligation from Allah. In Al-Quran, descended to all of us in Al-Quran. Suffice honor to you, Ahlul Bayt. Whoever does not recite as-salat on you, there is no salat for him. Am I right or am I right? Am I saying something wrong? For all the Muslims, every Muslim, regardless of your school of thought, when you do at-tashahhud in every salat, at-tashahhud, is it wajib or non-wajib? Unanimously, for every Muslim who recite الشهادة أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمد رسول الله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأصحابه المنتجبين. You have to do الشهود أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله or أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Is this a wajib in your salat or not? Ash-shahada, is it a wajib or not? If we are united on the love of Muhammad wa Ali Bayti Muhammad, the world would be much better. The condition of our state will be much better. The status, the condition of the Muslims on all levels would be much, much, much better. Let's unite. Let's unite on الشهادة, on التوحيد, and on النبوة, and حب محمد وآل محمد, and المؤمنين. And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is an integral part of this equation. A solid founder and a solid factor in this equation. So I ask all the Muslims to commemorate his loss and his shahada. And if you love someone, you should know something about them. Otherwise, what are the signs of this love? What are the signs of this love? قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله لكل شيء حقيقة. طيب, if you come to me and you say, I love my father, just a simple example, I love my father, good. If you love your father, it's a word that you say it with your mouth. طيب, imagine this scenario when you make such a claim. You come to a group, oh, who is your father? My father is X and Y, and I love him. You say that in front of the group. And this group meets your father, and your father complains. You don't see him. You don't call him. You don't talk about him. You don't know anything about him. Anytime somebody will say something, you shut him off. You change the subject. You don't want to go into the discussion. You don't want to know what he likes, what he dislikes, what he have done, what he achieved, what the problems and the trouble that he went through for you, for your own protection, for your own rearing, for your own care. And yet you claim you love your father? That claim is false. That claim is invalid. That claim is that you are cheating yourself before you're cheating anyone. You might cheat people, but you cannot cheat yourself. And if you cheat yourself, you are not able to cheat Allah and His Jannah. Allah guaranteed for al-mu'min that he believes in al-tawheed and al-nubuwah and al-mi'ad and al-wilayah. And yet he comes Yawmul Qiyamah without the love for Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. It's not going to work for him. So you need to ask yourself the question, do I love them? What are the signs of this love? What are the signs of this love? The sign of this love that you get to know them. You get to know and appreciate the value of such a group, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala purified them and wanted them to be an excellent example for us to follow. وَلَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ إِسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. You have an excellent example in the behavior of Rasulullah. And Rasulullah, unanimously among all the historians, said, follow Ali. Follow Ali. If you are a mu'min, you love him. If you are a munafiq, you don't love him. Where do we stand? You as a Muslim, forget about Sunni Shi'i. You are as a Muslim, where do you stand with your love towards Ali, towards Fatima, towards Al-Hassan, towards Al-Hussein, and the nines of the descendant of Al-Ummah of Al-Imam Al-Hussein that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi named them one by one with their nickname? Where do you stand? If you love them, what do you know about them? I was having a debate and a conversation with one an Islam Muslim scholar that I love. I'm not going to mention his name. And I said to him, Fatima alayha salam. He said, who's Fatima? I said, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. You don't love her? You don't love Ahlul Bayt? He said, of course I love them. So what do you know about them? He didn't know anything. Not a single hadith. Not a single story. Nothing. You go to the historians, certain historians, the legacy of Ahlul Bayt is totally blocked. And they were killed, persecuted, tortured, terrorized. And you mean to tell me we are not going to acknowledge them? And they are big ni'mah. And our love to them, qurbatan ilallahi ta'ala, will save us yawm al-qiyamah, because we are following the command of who? Command of Allah. If you want to believe in Allah, remember what he said to Ash-Shaytan. Remember what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the angels. I want you to do a sujood for that creation, for Adam. As a respect for Adam. A sujood is for Allah because Allah commanded. Allah commanded. As a respect for Adam. They all did except Ash-Shaytan. Except Ash-Shaytan. Ash-Shaytan said to Allah, save me from this hukum. Save me from this command. And I will worship you just like no one else can. After 6,000 years of worship, Allah told him, I don't need your worship. If you want to believe in me and worship me, you worship me from where I want you to worship me. You worship me on my own term, on Allah's term. You want to be a Muslim, you want to be a mu'min, regardless of your school of thought, you need to be a mu'min and a Muslim in Allah's term, not on our term, not on your personal term. And Allah's term is telling you, cherish those people, love them, follow them because they are more knowledgeable, they are guided. Allah tested them, love them, and yet we put them on the sideline. We close their chapters. We hide their pages in history. And you claim you love them. What kind of love is this? What kind of act is this? The third factor that I want to introduce to all the Muslims, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He sent Al-Anbiya and when He sent As-Salihin and the pious to the people, when people mistreated them, underestimated them, fought them, oppressed them, did great injustice to them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respond. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala interfere. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defend them by making their legacy shining more. He puts their love in the true believers through the course of history until Yawm al-Qiyamah. And that's what He did to Al-Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That's why Rasulullah said, for the martyrdom of Al-Imam al-Hussein, there is a fever in the heart of every believer that will not go off until Yawm al-Qiyamah, until the day of the judgment. إِنَّ لِقَتْلَ الْحُسَيْنِ حَرَارَةً فِي قُلُوبِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ لَن تَهْدَأَ أَبَدًا. Never will be put off. You need to love him. You need to understand why did he rise? What was the purpose of his movement? ما خرجت أشرا ولا بطرا إنما خرجت طلبا للإصلاح في أمة جدي. I did not go out as a tyrant, nor as an arrogant, nor just to lead. I want to reform. آمر بالمعروف وأن أنهي عن المنكر. And he said to us, hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, whoever see a wrongdoing and a wrong act with oppression for the people, for the servant of God, and he does not say anything, and he does not complain, and he does not raise his voice, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will resurrect him with him. We need to understand that Muhammad is ni'mah. Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi is rahmah. By definition, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We did not send you except for one main purpose, as a mercy for the creation, all the creation. By definition, Muhammad is rahmah. By definition, Al-Hussein is rahmah and mercy for all of us, ship of salvation for all of us. Why? By definition, that was Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Husaynun minni, he's part of me. I am part of him, wa ana min Husayn. Ahabba Allah man ahabba Husayna. May Allah loves anyone who loves Imam Hussein. He's a ni'mah. If he's a ni'mah, if this is a blessing from Allah, if this a rahmah, mercy from Allah, why you want to reject it? Why do you want to turn your back on it? Why you do not have respect for that value? Do you know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Holy Book, in Al-Quran, about those who reject the ni'mah, who reject the rahmah, even if they claim that they are Muslims? Because there are certain Muslims, they say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasul, and they kill. And they commit major sins. They are kuffar with their behavior. They are Muslims in their ideology. And they do not appreciate, if they do not appreciate the ni'mah of Muhammad, and if they do not appreciate the ni'mah of Ahlul Bayt, what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Holy Book, in Al-Quran, about those people who reject such a blessing? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ بَدَّلُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ كُفْرًا وَأَحَلُّوا قَوْمَهُمْ دَارَ الْبَوَارِ. Don't you see about those people who changed the ni'mah of Allah into a rejection? They rejected kufr, and they led themselves and their people to what? To destruction. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وبارك على محمد وآل محمد وترحم على محمد وآل محمد وبارك على محمد وآل محمد وسلم على محمد وآل محمد كما صليت وسلمت وباركت وتحننت وترحمت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. May Imam Hussein unite us. May Imam Hussein alayhi salam, his shahada, save us. May our heart bond among each other for this love of Allah, for the love of Rasulullah, for the love of Ahlul Bayt, and for the love of the top-notch companions who were sincere and who did not fall short after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi from following his sunnah sincerely and truthfully. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expedite the appearance of Al-Imam Al-Mahdi alayhi salam. May Allah keep you safe. May Allah save you from all the pandemics out there and all the disease and all the shortcomings that will affect us negatively and affect this ummah negatively. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us izzah and give us karama and give us prosperity. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the soul of my mother and for the soul of all your lost loved ones, please recite Surah Al-Mubarakatul Fatiha قبلها الصلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.